If you are born in a Shafi'i background, you don't have to stick to that. You can become a Hanafi, but you don't change every week. You change once. You change according to what's accessible to you, right? The background on this is what is accessible. Have you got books? Have you got ulama that you can access? I remember once I went to a program, a retreat, and one brother I know is absolutely he's from Hyderabad or from Pakistan, right? You know, typical Hanafi brother, and he's doing Raf' al-Yadayn. And he's traditional. I mean, you know, I knew that he follows a madhab, right? But he's like, he's doing Raf' al-Yadayn. I'm like, what are you doing? He said, I'm a Maliki now, right? He's from Philadelphia. And I said, like, but why are you raising your hands for? He says, well, you know, for him, poor guy, he wants to become a Maliki because he's studying under Sheikh Khalid Blankenship, right? Dr. Khalid Blankenship, I think, or whatever. But he hasn't studied the Salat enough to understand that the Malikis also don't raise their hands. He thinks just doing what my dad doesn't do is Maliki. You know what I'm saying? Just something different. I want to be different. Wallahu a'lam. Right? Obviously it looked really stupid, didn't it? But what I'm trying to say is that that's not the point. The point is that you go and you take a madhab that you have access to. Because it's all about following the deen, following the Quran, Sunnah, following the Prophet ﷺ through someone who's already done the work for you, because we just can't do it ourselves. Because we don't have the requisites of, or the qualifications of ijtihad and so on. Okay, so that's the adab. There needs to be an adab. And yes, there may be a few instances in our history where people have fought, right? A few zealots got up and they began to fight with each other. But for the most part, and even today, if I see a Maliki brother, I'm more than happy to see him. You know, and I learn from him. Like, what, you know, I just love it, because I go, what do you guys say about this? What do you guys say about this? It really improves your understanding of the legal system of Islam. Okay, another one is, one thing you have to remember is that the Hanafi madhab, as opposed to the Shafi, Maliki and Hanbali madhab, was not a single man endeavor. And neither was it just 3 muftis either. It was an entire group of 40 experts in the various different fields, you know, including, you know, people from all the way from spirituality to lugha, to lexicography, to hadith and everybody else. Imam Muhammad al-Shaybani, Zakaria ibn Abi Zaida, and, you know, all to the likes of Fudayl ibn Iyad and Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak. So it was a group effort. In fact, it says that for 3 months sometimes they would debate on an issue. And they couldn't reach a conclusion. And finally, after 3 months, it would be written, Qala Abu Hanifa this, and Qala Abu Yusuf and Muhammad this. And that's how it go down. That's how we've inherited it. Now the flexibility that gives the muftis of today, that they can actually pick and choose within their own madhab, according to certain parameters, obviously. But it gives a great flexibility. Another thing was, Imam Abu Hanifa was a tabi'i, right? I don't want to talk about I don't want to talk about why I'm a Hanafi or whatever, but these are just certain points, okay? I'm not saying the Hanafis are better than the Shafis or whatever, all right? Although I do believe that as a Hanafi, I have to think that whatever we're doing is the best opinion, okay? Is the most valid opinion. Another thing that comes up that's been going around is that the Imam said, and it's quoted from them, that, you know, if you see a hadith that's sahih, then reject my qawl, reject my opinion, and take what's sahih. Then how do you deal with that issue? Well, the thing is that you have to remember, these Imams were not idiots. They weren't talking to Tom, Dick and Harry. They were talking to muhaddithin. They were talking to their students. How many minutes? Okay. They were talking to their students who were muhaddithin, that obviously if there's some other hadith that you come across, you can reject what I'm saying because our understanding was based on this. He wasn't talking to just anybody off the street who finds a hadith somewhere and says, oh, Imam Abu Hanifa didn't see this. How do you know he didn't see that? Do you know? So it's very difficult for you to determine that he didn't see something. You can maybe establish what he did see, but you can't establish what he did not see and say that because he didn't see that, you know, because that process of elimination is just impossible to do, right? We're not privy to his life at that time. Or for any other imam for that matter. So you have to remember, this statement is to the muhaddithin. And number 3, when he talks about weak ahadith, you have to remember that a hadith that's weak today was not necessarily weak when the imams had it. Because, you know, if you look at it, Imam Abu Hanifa passed away in 150 Hijri. Imam Malik passed away in 179. Imam Shafi in 204 and Imam Ahmad in 241. Imam Bukhari passed away after that in 256. He was only born in 194. So when Imam Bukhari got the hadith, there may have been now a narrator who came in after Imam Abu Hanifa's time, who was a weak narrator, and the hadith happened to only be narrated from him. Now Imam Bukhari couldn't take that hadith anymore. Whereas earlier on, before that time, it was sahih because all of the narrators were sahih. I mean, I should spend more time in explaining this, but we don't have the time. But I hope you understand what I'm saying. That the first 3 generations or 4 generations, everybody was completely upright, reliable. But then a 5th narrator, and the time comes of Tirmidhi or Abu Dawud or whatever, that person is weak, although the 4 are at the top. Imam Abu Hanifa has taken it from the 4th one or the 3rd one. Right? So for him it's sahih, but later that hadith becomes weak maybe. Right? That's a possibility as well. So, we mustn't take this in black and white. You must understand that this is a very intricate system. Okay? And, I don't want to go into much more detail here, but you have to remember Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he says himself, and Suyuti relates this from him in Tadrib al-Rawi, right? And his practice shows this as well. He says that when it comes to aqeedah, or when it comes to fiqh, then we really like go down on the hadith and scrutinize it. When it comes to fadail, we take a step back. If you look at Imam Bukhari, it's only in his Sahih, right, his Al-Jami' al-Sahih, that he's taken up this criteria to only include what's Sahih according to him. If you look at his Juz' al-Qira'ah khalf al-Imam, Juz' al-Fatiha, and his Al-Adab al-Mufrad, it's full of da'if hadith. Full of them. So if it's okay for him, why isn't it okay for us? What's the point of somebody coming and taking Imam al-Tirmidhi's book and making a Sahih Sunan al-Tirmidhi? And taking out what he thinks is weak and making, this is what I think is the Sahih of At-Tirmidhi or Sahih of Ibn Majah. Right? What's the point of that? If it was good for those Imams, why not for us? Right? So these are just some of the things, but one thing I must tell you and I must encourage is that this is not a point of argument. It's an academic difference. And this is something that they have agreed to disagree on, and it enriches the faith to a certain degree. Right? As long as your issues are not in Aqeedah, that's a problem, right? When it comes to fiqh, let them do that, let them do this, right? You've got a lot of ignorance all around the world. If you've got somebody in a typical masjid in India or Pakistan, he says Ameen aloud, I'm telling you, they will turn around and say, Wahhabi, go and kill him or something like that, right? Because they've never just seen it before. But in England and in London, especially where we stay, we've got a number of issues. That's why whenever I spoke in America about any fiqh, I would say, some say this, but this is the one I follow. I even stopped saying this is Hanbali or Shafi'i, because that just confused some people, because people are so far away. They've come from under a system, but they don't really know what system it is. And you don't want them to feel that they've been doing wrong all their life, if they've been following a good system. That's why what I would normally say is that this is one opinion, other ulama have said this, I prefer this one for this reason. So at least they feel that, we're following qualified scholarship, but, I could move over if I want because this seems better, because he's convincing us of, what the reason is. Right? So don't ever argue with others about it. It's a futile argument. We've got a lot of major things to think about and to deal with from outside our faith tradition. That's why you might be thinking, well, why the point of this? The point of this is that we got a problem. Right? We have a problem. And hopefully from more knowledge of really what happened in history and the reason why these things happened, right, will give us more tolerance, will give us a higher standing in terms of an academic nature, so that we can start looking at things more professionally as opposed to more culturally, right, or in a more biased way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq. Let's not go around taking people out of the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, whether it comes from a Hanafi, Shafi or somebody else, it doesn't matter. Let us just focus on the true things that we have, and let us try to at least come together on a brotherly level, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq. Jazakallah khairan a lot for your patience, but I thought that if we left the historical aspect only, it would have not really finished it off properly for us. Thanks a lot, Jazakallah khair for your patience and your sabr. Allah reward you for that. Wa bashir as-sabirin. Jazakallah khair. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.